today it's gonna be a very quick. I guess you're just gonna watch me chart. I'll explain my thought process. I'm gonna start with a very clean chart. There's no drawings on this, no indicators, so not really much to go off of. I'm just gonna go off my thoughts. I think people that learn how to chart, it takes a lot of time to understand and read the price action. So there's a very few people that can actually read it correctly, and I've been doing a pretty good job recently. So I just want to, give my thoughts on where I think the market's going to move or some very important levels. So I usually start on the 1 hour time frame. Let's look for some trends on the 1 hour. So obviously we see a lot of what we call accumulation in this range right here. Accumulation, think of it like a very tight range. If you want to measure this range out, it's usually just hold on, let me take my measuring tool. Usually this is like a percent range right here. That's not a really big range, and it's really hard to trade on a percent range if you're trying to scalp. Besides anything, if you're trying to scalp, you can make a lot of money doing this. You can just trade this range completely. But other than that, for day traders, it's a nightmare. Let's take a look at what happened today. So what happened today is we had this 830 CPI candle. We broke out of this 1% range. We tried to do it earlier, but we were able to suck it back up and go back into the range slightly higher. And this was all overnight. Then we got the CPI news, came down on that, and what it looks like is happening here is, as you can see, the candles are trying to go up, right? Like you see this pattern right here on the 1 hour. We're trying to go up. However, we're trying to go up, and we're getting met by this resistance level right here. I'm going to change the colors on this so you can see it better. This resistance level right here. Eventually what's going to happen is we're going to be, I want to drop it down to a lower time frame in a little bit, but I just want you to have an idea and just to think about what's going on here. So I'm going to take my tool out and I'll just draw it out very, very, very simply. So for example, right? So imagine within a triangle, right? This is a triangle. Within a triangle, what's going on? There's going to be price action that goes up, and then it's going to come back down to the bottom of the triangle. Then it's going to set another either lower high or equal high, then come back down, and come back up, and eventually the price action is going to get tight. It's going to go like this. And what's going to happen when the price action gets tight? You see this triangle forms, right? So when this triangle forms, it means that there's going to be a big impulse move either up or down, right? And you're going to ask me, how do you know what the impulse move is going to be, and how can you you're obviously not going to get it right 100% of the time, but how can you tell what's going to happen? So to understand that question, you want to understand why this even happens to begin with, right? Why is there this range and triangle being formed? Well, I want you to think, why we have obviously this level, everything above the triangle was traded today. Obviously that candle the price was touched at one point. So you want to think of it as price that has been touched, and there's a big impulse move that it's like buying a really big purchase, right? Imagine you have $2,000 in your bank account. You just bought a $1,000 piece of equipment for whatever you're using it for. Let's say you bought a brand new laptop. You bought a $1,000 laptop. You're not instantly going to go out there and buy another laptop for another $1,000, because then you're going to be at zero, right? So think about it like that. We have this big impulse move, and before we get another big move, before you can buy another big thing or sell another big thing, you want to have this little time of consolidation to either you can think of it like reclaiming your money or making more money, or just considering whether or not you need to go out in there and buy something. So think about it as a cool off time. We had this big impulse move, and now we had this cool off period. And you can try to trade this with either two ways. Let's say we go up, we have this big area of resistance. As you see, we tested that level quite a few times. So what's probably going to end up happening is, let's see, we get a move up. We're probably going to see another move back down, back into the level before we continue to go back up. We call that the retest. Retests happen quite often, especially on consolidations. For example, I'll show you an example right here. Let's see if we can find a good one. It's gonna be hard to find a good retest because we've been getting nothing but chop recently. Let's say we get this trend right here. right? You don't have to enter on this exact downtrend. However, you have the opportunity to enter when it retests that line, and then you can play that short side. So you want to make sure that confirmation of trend is there. Then again, it's not the exact same pattern that we're looking at, but you obviously can see what I'm trying to say. Of course, if you have questions, I'll answer them if you leave them down. But okay, so back to what we're talking about. Let me drop this down to a lower time frame. We're looking at the 1 hour, which clears up a lot of the noise. Let's drop it down to a 15. So on a 15, you can see exactly what we're talking about. This little trend is being formed. This trend is being formed, and to give yourself an edge on this trend, you want to see what happened before it. So for example, I like to tell myself, and this is a very common thing in trading, trends like to stay true, right? And like the S&P 500 likes to, the S&P 500 likes to return 8% every year. That likes to stay true, right? It's not like you're not going to see very, very, very often that we're going to have those big retracements for a couple of years where we're just going down. It happens, obviously, but in general, on average, the 8% rule is kind of basically stands true. Same thing goes here. This downtrend, it wants to stay true, right? It's downtrend. Obviously, it happened for a reason. It happened based off news. News candles aren't really the most reliable, but because we had such a tough time breaking upwards, I'm gonna count that as a really reliable trend. We're probably gonna see some more news tomorrow before open. We have PPI at 8:30. I think PPI is more explosive than CPI. I expect it to be. So obviously, one of two things can happen. We break that level on the news, or we break downward. And what am I going to say? Well, I'm going to say the exact same thing. Enter on the retest. To give you more of an idea what I mean by enter on the retest, I'm going to break it down to an even lower level. Let's go to the 1 minute candle. I'm just going to explain what my idea of day trading looks like. So you might have seen my callouts today, and this may look like all chop. I obviously didn't play the morning. I started giving my callouts around after 2 p.m., which is when we got a lot of the news was over by then. So, for example, let me see. So we had this trend right here. We see we're trending downward. I was trying to target this low right here that we were trying to set. We got close. As you can see right here, we got close. We didn't exactly set a new low, which would have been ideal, but it didn't really happen. So I didn't enter on the first break of this trend. As you can see, I took it based on this trend right here. We made a lower high than the previous high, so this trend stands true. I didn't enter immediately on this lower high. We came back up, and I was like, oh shit, we're going to touch this line right here again. Let me enter downwards again. So we took this trade. Obviously, there was chop, not as clean as we would like it, but you know, it ended up happening. We did get our touchdown towards that lower end. Then again, you see this uptrend right here, right? This uptrend right here. I was watching this uptrend, waiting for this uptrend to break, and sometimes you have to be really quick on your feet. You have to be like, oh, like what am I gonna do next? Like what's the next ideal move? You can see that this trend, we had a low and then a higher low. So when I saw that, I was getting kind of nervous because when you see a higher low, it just means that price is consolidating and it wants to go back up. But I stood true because as soon as we made that higher low, we also had a higher time making a newer high, and obviously with that newer high, the new lower high, we came back down and made a lower low, right? So with this trend right here, if I can't drop it down to lower time frame because I only have the minute data, but imagine like what this would look like on lower time frame, just us continuously going up until one candle breaks. So we entered this resistance area, right? We entered that resistance area. One candle broke beneath the trend. Then we try to retest that line. It was not a perfect retest, but like I said in the Discord, if you check it, I said try to look for that retest of that trend line for a short. We got as close as possible to that retest. If you were able to play that for the short side, that right there would have been a good 25%. And then the rest of the day was kind of like a little calmer. But yeah, I want you to think about it like that. There's trends within trends. Like as you can see, there's this bigger overall triangle trend, and then there's smaller trends right here, and there's even smaller trends if you want to look into it. Like if you're able to get the second data, which I don't really like use, but if you were willing to get the second data, you're able to see the small like trends within. So that's just a little like day trading, I guess, recap. I want to do more charting while we're here. So actually, let me not delete all of what I just made. Let me just delete the smaller one. So let me just delete this, and this, right? So let's go back to the hourly. Okay, so you see that we're in this. Triangle formation. PPI will either send us up or will either send us down. My prediction is, honestly, it looks like we're gonna have a down day tomorrow, just solely based off just this huge level. And I was having this trouble with this level. I'm positioned to go up because I'm optimistic that if you go onto the daily time frame, I'm optimistic that this level that has held true so many times. Let me just hold on. Actually, no, let me just hide my drawings. I can hide my drawings. Okay. This level that has held true so many times right here, it stood true again today, and maybe we got a little smaller of a day. Maybe if you can break this high or break this low, we'll be able to see more movement. As of right now, we're just stuck in this little range. And you, like I said before, there's trends within trends, and you have to know which trends are more significant than the others. Obviously, if you want to mark off the top of the trend to where we've been recently, this is a little box that we've been trading in as of recently. You can see we try to break out of that box and we came back into the box, and then right here. Actually, this box only really becomes significant since right here, right? So you can see like this level was very important to us, previous low before we pivoted upwards. And this was our pivot high, and it came back down to the previous low, then we're going to pivot upwards again. That's my idea, at least. If for whatever reason we break down, right, let's say, for example, right, like I said, we have trends within trends, right? Let's say the overall trend is up. Let's say this is our trend line, right? It's our trend line. Let's say we have this trend, let's say we broke. You can also consider this to be a retest of the break of the trend line right here. We're retesting, and then now we're positioned to come back down, maybe test some of the older levels. You can see that we do have a few gaps to fill. I don't really call that I don't know. People like to say the gaps are really reliable and all gaps will fill. It's not necessarily true, but if you're one of those people that believe that all gaps will be filled, this is a good entry for long-term shorts. But yeah, pretty easy to see where the patterns are right now. Now that I look at it more, because I didn't really get a chance to look at charts before today. Earlier today, but you can obviously see what happened today. We retested that trend line. We came back down. Now we just want to see more volume pick up. We want to see volume, bigger candles, maybe. Hopefully, we don't get these stupid range days back to back again. Really annoying to trade if you're someone that trades momentum like I do. So this is NQ. NQ, you want to make sure is the same thing as QQQ. Make sure that you know what's going on in the time frame, in the lower time frames. Hourly's forming that little triangle. Probably will break to the. My bet is I'm positioned upwards, remember, so I'm going to be biased, but I think that tomorrow we will go downwards, just solely based off this heavy consolidation after this big impulse move. Let's take another look at another ticker. Another ticker that I was requested to do is Amazon. Amazon is one of those names that sometimes they'll move with market, sometimes it won't, as you can see. Let me tell you. Like QQQ obviously had a really bad day yesterday. It had almost 1% down day, and then Amazon was green. So it's one of those tickers that don't always really move with the market. Take a look. We can just draw lines. Since this is a clean chart, we can just take a look at maybe a long-term analysis. You can see that there's a trend right here, right? Like this trend right here. We're trying to follow this trend. We touched it. Make it a little cleaner. Follow the wicks, right? We touched it. And we continue to go up. We got close to the trend line again. Continue to go up. Remember, trend lines are like, I want you to think of them as kind of like rectangles. I can't really draw like a diagonal rectangle, but think of it like a diagonal rectangle where like it's kind of like a level, right? It's not always going to be a line. It's going to be a level where the price is just increasingly getting higher to the point until it breaks. It's going to increasingly get higher. Let me use a highlighter to kind of show what I'm talking about. Like it'll go like this. let me hold on. Let me make the level more clear. And use the highlighter tool. So it's kind of like this, right? It's not going to be that exact line, but it's going to kind of go like this. That level right there, where all the buyers are at. Let me also make this green. So you see all the buyers are going to be within that level, and then obviously sellers are going to be above that level. So you see this trend line right here. Sellers are all within that level. And I don't know if you guys have been checking the Discord recently, but a tool that I really like to use is this channel tool right here, parallel channels. Very interesting to see. So you can draw the lower end of the trend line, bring it up to the higher end of the trend, and you see you give yourself a little range, nice little range to trade. You trade by longing the bottom and shorting the top until it breaks, and then you have another trend to look for. Very simple. So this is the daily trend for Amazon. Clearly we're on an uptrend until it breaks. No reason to short that, or you can just short the top of it. Either or will work. So there's that nice, you can see, look how perfectly that the buyers are able to just move price upwards, touched it barely, then continue to go back up. Very beautiful to see if you're someone that likes charts and all that jazz. But so hourly time frame, take a look at it. I'm gonna draw the channel again. It's just kind of in my way. So hourly time frame, nice 8:30 wick, came back with strong buying power at 9 o'clock. Anything interesting happening here? I don't really see any significance besides this channel. Let me drop it down to a 15. Anything interesting happened today? Nice opening candle. Another nice candle right here. You like to see this wick down here. Retest the body of this candle, then continue upwards but chop around. How was yesterday? So yesterday another kind of like just kind of spiraled downward. You can see yesterday there was this trend line of just us going like this, and we respected that trend line the whole day until we finally broke it, and then obviously you can't really tell what happened overnight. Another example, just follow the trend until you break it right here, then you enter on this retest, and you would have gotten stopped out on this trade, but you know, sometimes shit happens. Unlucky. Another one right here. To see this trend, follow the wicks, and you have this trend right here. You really would not have gotten an entry on this trend, just solely based off you don't really get a retest. And you might ask the question of like, oh, how long? Like, how can you tell if a trend is going to be a reversal or not? Like, a retest can obviously be a sign of a reversal. The way to look at it is like you want to give yourself like 2 or 3 time frames just to confirm. Like for example, if you looked at what I played today in terms of my positioning, I really played more short side today, just because we had this big candle. We had this big candle down, and I'm not going to take longs after a huge impulse move down, just like on Amazon. Like, I'm not trying to short that. If you find an entry, like when we come down like near here, and you think it's a good idea to retest the trend line, yeah, then go for it. Take a longer term position on the upside. I'm not going to say that's a bad trade. Like, that's how you should be trading, basically. You get these multiple time frame confirmations, and you line them up, and you find the most ideal entry. Sometimes you won't get the perfect entry, but you get yourself the most ideal entry. Another ticker to look at is Tesla. I drew this Tesla channel yesterday. I didn't really delete it because I wanted to make sure that people were able to see what was going on here. You can see that we had this nice little channel. Let me move my watermark. You see we had this nice little channel right here, following this trend line. We broke out of this channel. Now we're following this little price action right here, trending downward after the big impulse move down. 2 things can happen here. Of course, Tesla is one of those tickers that kind of also moves individually. 2 things can happen. We could have a big squeeze up, which will probably cover up most of this body candle, or we can retest this downward level right here. Maybe test the old channel. But as of right now, there's not really much of a trend. Obviously, I didn't want to take positions earlier this week because of CPI being such a big and heavy like price action, I guess, killer. It really destroys price action, and considering that the options market is pricing in a huge move earlier in the week, I'm not paying that high in premium. So this was I think this is based on the daily. This is a meta chart. I was looking at this. Yeah, so like right here, another example of how I use channels like this. As you can see, I practice what I preach. This was an old chart that I had it on. You can see we retested the bottom of the trend line every single time we retested. We even try to fall out of that trend line, which is what I'm trying to look at on Tesla. We fall out of that trend line, and then obviously you can see we fall out and then we reclaimed it. That's what I hope to see on Tesla on the 1 hour. We fall out of that trend line, then we reclaim that trend line. I'm long-term positioned biasly on the long side on Tesla, so I really don't want to see the stock die like this. It's been kind of a strange run for Tesla. It's been stuck in this level after it really obviously tried to go back up, and then we got that obviously really bad news within these few days. We went from 200 all the way down to 160, 170. Not exactly what I like to hear, but you know, nothing much I can do when news is being traded. Very hard to trade against news. With earnings coming up, I want to see a big drive upward. I don't think Elon Musk wants to see another terrible earnings. They've been having really bad earnings on Tesla. Let's do one more ticker before I get out of here. Let's look at NVIDIA. Pretty nice price action on NVIDIA. I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds if you want to pause. Like, what do you guys see of this trend? Like, this is a very obvious trend if you're able to see it. If you're not able to see it, that's completely fine too. I'm gonna take out the channel tool. Maybe that'll give you a little hint. Take a few seconds, just look at what's going on here, right? Okay, so you can see that there's this trend right here, right? Like, we had this high, then we had this high, now we had this high, right? Like, and then look at the bottoms. We had this bottom. Look how all the bottoms line up. It's so beautiful when charting is such an art. Like, you can see like all the bottoms line up. It's such a nice thing to see when it happens. All the bottoms line up. We're in this nice channel. If you want to see what's been happening before it, right? Like, obviously the price action is trending up. When you see a channel like this, you have to ask yourself, why is this channel happening? Maybe it's reconsolidation of old levels. Maybe we're trying to see a new change in trend. But like I said before, trend likes to hold true. Obviously, NVIDIA trend is up. This channel might be just another opportunity for long sides to enter. Something interesting to note. Something I would like to see a long-term trend upward on NVIDIA. Maybe we can see a very nice entry. Of course, those contracts are really expensive, and I don't really want to touch those contracts. $2,000 a pop is not something I want to pay. But I don't know. The trend looks really clean. Obviously, that's one of the nicer looking channels. If you have trouble reading channels, just think of it as like I think of it like a screw, right? Like, think of it like a screw. Like, the screw is going to continuously go somewhere. It's going to go into the wood or into whatever you're trying to get it into, and it's not going to go straight down. It's going to go like around. That's what's happening here. It's kind of going around. It's drilling, but kind of going around, right? That's how I think of it. I like to visualize the price action. Just visualize it as a screw. I don't know if you guys see it. I can draw it really quickly before I close this video. But just think about it like this. Like, it's just going down like this. You get the point, right? That's how I visualize price action. Pretty easy to read if you're able to see it in real time. If you're not, try to look for channels in real time. They're really useful. Anyways, that was a really quick charting video. I didn't touch on ES. I don't really like trading ES anymore. Maybe I'll start coming back to it if there's more interest on ES. But QQQ has been really treating me nicely, and Q has been really treating me nicely. So let's just stick with those while they work. But yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to hit me up. Have a good night, guys.